let's jump in and talk about storytelling, because
Sure.
so much of what your role is coming into a company is helping them tell a story. What does it mean to storytell for a company that's OTC or that's going to go IPO? What are you specifically trying to do when you're storytelling for them?
Yeah, I think it's really, like I said, I treat these companies like they're a person. They have their own reputation. They have their own story to tell. So what does the product or service do? How is it going to benefit the market? And you have to utilize platforms specifically that are going to help you reach that target audience. If you're putting stuff on Facebook, but the people that are going to use your service don't use Facebook, you're really wasting resources with that, right? So you have to be strategic about it as well. For me, in my business, I don't use TikTok. And I know a lot of people are like, really? It just isn't something that I don't see it bringing me any value. Honestly, it hasn't yet.
Probably not a lot of investors on TikTok too right now. It's more the younger generation.
Yeah,
it's
just not relevant to my market right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be at some point. But
I am on TikTok, and we will post this on TikTok too. So
and maybe at some point it will start being relevant for me with what I'm doing, but it hasn't. I haven't seen any returns on it yet. So I kind of drift away. Like LinkedIn, where we networked on, it's been a huge platform for me with retail and institutional investors and networking and going to conferences and road shows and meeting these guys and networking with them on there, and then them being able to see my brand and see what I do and saying, okay, he's he's a professional, and being able to feel comfortable wanting to work with me and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I mean, that personal brand is so important to have, and we're going to dig into that. As we think about storytelling, talk to me from the perspective of investors. I mean, in a dynamic marketplace, things are changing every single day. The stock is swaying every single day. Mm-hmm. What is the role of storytelling that you have to help continue to tell the story to investors in a very dynamic marketplace?
Well, that's the differentiation, right? Are you talking to potential customers, or are you talking to shareholders and investors? There's differentiations in it. So if I'm talking to investors, I'm going to want to kind of talk about the business model. You want to show that there's a strong business model. If the management is strong, I want to really highlight that to an investor. And you can do that through other things besides just press releases. I mean, look, investors they're not dumb. They get to where they are because they're smart. They can read through if a management team is a strong management team. So that's a big thing they look at. I don't even think with investors you're storytelling too much. I think it's more for shareholders, honestly. I think investors, with the experience that they have the ability to look at a company and pretty quickly know, looking through numbers, talking to the management, looking through the investor deck, going through what the long-term strategy is, the short-term strategy is for the company, how much money they've raised already, what type of debt they've taken on, whether it's equity or debt deals, capital-wise, and they can make a determination if they think the company is going to, be something that they would want to put their capital behind, no matter what type of investor it is.
Yeah. And they see so many deals too, which I think is interesting.
Absolutely.
It kind of makes the point that these retail investors probably don't really get a fair shake at it with a number of deals they're evaluating versus the pros. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, they have more money to work with. They have more analysts to work with. So they're definitely at a huge strategic advantage over them.
So is the retail side worth continuing to do, or is it better to put your money with a money manager who has the access to the analysts and the knowledge that you don't have?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's something that's individualized. Me, I do it myself, but I spend a lot of time doing research and diligence and contacting companies to make sure that what I'm putting my money in works. And look, I'll be the first one to admit, I have 3 million shares in a company right now. It doesn't look great, right? But you take chances sometimes on stuff too. And then I have other investments that I'm looking at and I'm like, okay, these look pretty strong. I think these are going to work out long term. But if you look at the stock market overall, year in and year out, over a 10, 20-year period, the stock market goes up.
Yeah.
So if you stay in long enough, you're going to see gains in the market, whether you're doing it yourself or with a broker or with some kind of a hedge fund, 401k, whatever it is. I always say this, though. If you don't have the knowledge or the desire to try to do the diligence and you're just going to just throw money at companies because you read it on some Twitter page or somebody at work was telling you about this really cool stock that they heard about on TikTok, I'd be careful with that. And I would use a professional at that point, because I would never want to recommend somebody do something and then they are wiped out when they need their retirement money, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's all relative. I think that's where the differentiation comes. You should do it yourself if you're capable.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like you can, or you start losing a lot of money, then you should have somebody help you with it. That's my opinion.